Welcome to our special series marking the 50th anniversary of Arab News.
And in this deep dive, we're looking back at a really transformative decade, 1975 to 1984.
Yeah, we know you were curious about this period, so we've gone through the Arab News archives to sort of unpack the major events and, their lasting impact.
Our mission really is to distill the most crucial developments, give you a clear sense of these, pivotal years.
Absolutely. So where do we even start with such a packed decade?
Well, I think maybe the most logical place, unfortunately, is with a conflict that really cast a long shadow, the Lebanese Civil War, which kicked off in 1975.
Right.
It's a stark example, really, of how arrangements that seem stable can, fracture when those underlying demographic and political pressures build up.
And the Arab News archives often mention the official end, the Taif Agreement in '89, brokered, interestingly, right here in Saudi Arabia.
Exactly.
But the reporting from back then really stresses that the roots went much, much deeper.
They did. You had this power-sharing framework based on an old census from 1932 that favored Christians.
1932, wow.
Yeah, and as Lebanon's demographics shifted over, decades, other groups felt increasingly underrepresented, marginalized, and those tensions, they just simmered until they finally boiled over.
And even Taif, that agreement, it wasn't an instant fix, was it? I remember reading in the archives about Michel Aoun.
That's right. The Maronite military leader, Michel Aoun, he rejected the accord.
Which led to more fighting.
Exactly. More violence, including terrible destruction in Christian East Beirut. It just shows, doesn't it, that you can't just treat the symptoms if the core problems aren't addressed.
Such a crucial point.
And the Arab News reports from the early 90s, they really detail that final phase. Syrian troops moving against Aoun in October 1990, his flight to France. So for you listening, I think a key takeaway here is seeing how instability can really take root when political systems just don't keep pace with how society is changing.
Okay, so let's move forward a year to 1976. Land Day comes onto the scene. Still a very significant commemoration today, and the Arab News coverage from the time really helps understand its origins.
It does. Land Day, marked every March 30th, remembers a tragic event. 6 unarmed Palestinian citizens of Israel were killed by Israeli forces during protests.
And these protests, they weren't just random.
No, not at all. They were a direct response to an Israeli government plan to confiscate a lot of Arab-owned land, about 2,000 hectares in the Galilee region.
2,000 hectares. And this was tied into a specific government policy.
Yes, it was part of what was termed the Judaization of the Galilee policy. The goal was essentially to increase the Jewish population there.
Right.
And what's also critical to grasp, and the archives highlight this, is how Land Day connects to that unresolved issue of Palestinian villages like Ikrit and Biram.
The ones depopulated back in '48.
Precisely. Whose residents were never allowed back. So you see, this event in '76 became this powerful symbol for the ongoing struggle over land, over identity, linking past grievances to, present realities.
Okay. Then 1977 arrives, and the region sees something truly unexpected. President Sadat of Egypt goes to Jerusalem.
An absolutely historic visit. The Arab News coverage, as you can imagine, was intense. Sadat announcing, apparently without much prior consultation, that he was willing to go to Jerusalem to talk peace with Israel. It was a bombshell.
What was his reasoning, according to the reports?
He framed it primarily as wanting to spare Egyptians from more war, but he was also clear about needing Israeli withdrawal from occupied Arab lands, including Jerusalem, and securing Palestinian rights. Self-determination, a state, those were his words.
In addressing the Israeli parliament,
yeah,
that was completely unprecedented for an Arab leader.
The first time, yeah.
How did that go down? What was the reaction?
Well, the archives show it was deeply polarizing. Some hailed it as incredibly brave, a real step towards peace.
But others?
Others were furious. There were resignations in Egypt, widespread anger across the Arab world. Sadat himself spoke very powerfully about the curse of humanity for those who plot against peace. You could feel the weight of that moment.
Which, of course, paved the way for the Camp David Accords the following year, 1978. Sadat and Begin got the Nobel Peace Prize for it, but again, not without controversy.
No, definitely not. The Accords, mediated by U.S. President Carter at Camp David, were certainly a landmark leading to the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty in '79.
Right.
And this is a major but that the Arab News analysis picked up on immediately. They didn't really resolve the core Palestinian question.
Which was Sadat's original stated goal,
right,
partly.
Exactly. His vision seemed broader initially, but the Accords ended up being seen by many in the Arab world as a separate peace, leading to that condemnation and Egypt's suspension from the Arab League. It remained ultimately a limited agreement.
Okay, so that brings us to 1979. And wow, what a year. Not just one major event, but three that absolutely shook the region and really the world.
That's putting it mildly. 1979 was seismic. You had the Iranian Revolution establishing the Islamic Republic.
Right.
Then the siege of the Grand Mosque in Makkah by extremists, a profound shock to the entire Muslim world.
Unthinkable, really.
And then the Soviet Union invades Afghanistan, completely redrawing the geopolitical map. Arab News was right there, documenting all of it, the immediate fallout.
And the Afghan conflict in particular had such long-term consequences.
Absolutely. The archives really trace how that conflict became, well, a crucible for radical ideologies.
Yeah.
It drew in foreign fighters, including figures like Osama bin Laden, and laid the groundwork for groups like Al-Qaeda. The connections are undeniable.
And just as the decade turns, 1980 brings the start of another huge conflict.
The Iran-Iraq War. Kicking off in 1980, as Arab News reported extensively, this was the beginning of a truly devastating long war that would dominate much of the next decade. A grim sign of the instability to come.
But amidst all this conflict, 1981 saw a move towards cooperation, didn't it? The GCC was formed.
Yes, a very significant development. The Cooperation Council for the Arab States of the Gulf GCC, founded in Abu Dhabi by the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Oman, Qatar, and Kuwait.
What was the main driver, according to the archives? Security, economy.
It seems it was a bit of both, really. A recognition of shared interests, a need for greater stability in a turbulent region. The Arab News reporting suggests there were debates, some pushing for a security focus, others more for economic integration.
It's a compromise.
Essentially, yes.
Why?
The charter aimed for coordination across all fields, ultimately towards unity. It really laid the foundation for future regional cooperation and collective security efforts that we still see today.
Then 1982, a truly horrific event, the Sabra and Shatila massacre in Beirut.
Yes, a deeply painful memory. The Arab News coverage from that time documents the killing of, well, a large number of Palestinian and Lebanese civilians in those refugee camps.
Just a terrible chapter in the Lebanese war and the wider conflict.
A stark reminder of the immense human cost. It's an event that still resonates very deeply across the region.
Moving into 1983, another devastating event in Beirut, the bombing of the U.S. Marine barracks.
Yeah, a huge shock. That suicide bombing killed 241 American service members. And a separate attack hit the French contingent too, killing 58.
And the consequences were immediate.
They were. It led directly to the withdrawal of the U.S.-led multinational force from Lebanon, a major turning point in terms of international involvement there.
Did the reports identify who was responsible?
Well, a group calling itself the Islamic Revolution Movement claimed responsibility. Suspicion, as reported at the time, fell on groups with links to Iran. And Lebanon actually cut diplomatic ties with both Iran and Libya after the attacks. It highlighted just how complex the geopolitical web was.
Okay, so rounding out this period, 1984 brought something quite different, a moment of, well, real inspiration.
Absolutely. Nawala El-Moutawakel's Olympic victory.
Right. From Morocco.
Winning gold in the women's 400-meter hurdles at the Los Angeles Olympics. Arab News covered it with immense pride, of course.
This was groundbreaking, wasn't it?
Truly. She was the first Muslim woman from an African nation to win Olympic gold. A fantastic achievement celebrated far beyond the world of sports. A real moment of uplift.
So looking back at this decade, 1975 to 1984, through the lens of the Arab News archives,
Yeah.
it's just incredible. So much turmoil, so much change.
Profound shifts. Definitely. You have the Lebanese war starting, Land Day's origins, Sadat's bold peace move, the shocks of 79, the Iran-Iraq war beginning.
The formation of the GCC, the tragedies in Beirut, but also moments like El-Moutawakel's win. It feels like so many seeds for the future, both good and bad, were sown in these years.
That's a great way to put it. The reporting from the time really shows how interconnected everything was, how events in one place rippled outwards. These years undeniably shaped the modern Arab world we see today.
We really hope this deep dive has given you, our listeners, a clearer picture of this complex and absolutely crucial period.
And the story doesn't end here, of course.
Not at all. Please join us for our next deep dive, where we'll pick up the thread and explore the following decade, 1985 to 1994, again drawing on the rich archives of Arab News.